Hi ladies, welcome back to Bernina Club. So amazing now the weather's getting warmer, so I thought you might start getting out into your garden a bit more. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make a knee pad to make gardening a little bit nicer so you don't get sore knees. So I have done a little bit of research and I have been down to our local para rubber store and I went down there to buy foam. Now I thought I would buy standard foam like this and make a knee pad. The problem with standard foam is when you put your knees on it and if there's any moisture in the grass, it's going to come straight up and be soaked up in this foam. So this type of foam here is better to make a cushion out of. So I thought, well, I might as well make cushions as well. So what I've done today is I have made a cushion to take to a concert, to take to a picnic or whatever, and I've put a handle on it so you can carry it. And the fabric I've used on the outside is a laminated fabric. So if it does get a little bit damp, you can simply wipe it down, okay? So it's absolutely brilliant. And I'll tell you another thing that it's really, really good for. When you put it on your seat of the car, and you have trouble getting in and out of the car as you get a little bit older, or you've had an operation on your hip or your knee or something like that and it's a little bit hard to get out of the car, with this laminated fabric you can slip and slide. Don't slide out of the car, but it's easier to turn because it's movable. So if you're going to make it for the car, I would put a normal fabric on the back and the laminate just on the front. Okay, but this is a great one to take to concerts, to take to a picnic, to take to the beach, and it's really, really good. So there you go. So that's one idea, and I'm going to show you how to make them. And the other idea, the other one you want to do is the actual knee pad. Now this is called, I was going to say EVO, but I better just check now. I better get the right name. EVA. See, I was not quite right. So this is called EVA foam. Now it comes in different thicknesses. Now this is what you'll buy when you go to the garden centre or to Mega Mitre 10, and they have the knee pads with the handles so you can push yourself up and down. This is the stuff they're made out of. So when your knees go onto here, you won't feel the ground, okay? The moisture will not come up through this foam. So this is a 15mm wide EVA foam, and this is the perfect size for a knee pad. Now you can just go to Para Rubber. They will cut this out exactly the size you want, and this piece cost about $9. Okay, now I've got another one here that I've covered, and this is twice the size, and this is going in my suitcase going to Australia, and this is going to my daughter. She has two babies, two little ones, and this is going to go into her bathroom floor so she can kneel on them when she's bathing the baby, and then when her little boy is old enough he can do his painting on here, and this can be a wipeable surface, much better than painting on your dining room table. So it's wipeable, it's a brilliant product. You can use it for toilet bags, you can use it for lunch bags, you can use it for ordinary bags, anything you like, but it's brilliant. And I've put a handle on this one as well, and I've put a zip here. So I'm going to show you how you actually make these today. If you wanted to, for this one here, you could have a different fabric with a gusset, but I've made it easy and I've made it up just like I would a bag with an envelope end, which I'll show you how to do. So this foam here, some people, if you wanted to have that soft foam on the top, you could glue a piece onto this and have the top softer, but really it's just wasting your money, because the problem with this foam is you can feel the ground straight away when you put your knees on it, because it has no thickness to it. So you really want this EVA foam. I don't garden a lot, but this would have been really handy when I did pull some weeds out the other day. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make it. Oh, we've got some beautiful laminate fabric. These three here and this one here. Really, really, really nice fabrics. And I'm going to be using this one today because this is a new fabric. It's about $45.30 a metre, all of these ones, and they are 150 centimetres wide. This one here is a Riley Blake one, and it's 110 centimetres wide, and it's $43. So they are the real McCoys. Now, the best part about these particular ones is they are light enough to make a rain jacket. So they are very, very, very nice to stitch with and very easy to sew with. So what you do is, and all my family are getting these for Christmas presents, by the way. So it's a nice gift that will be used. So how do you know how much fabric to buy? Well, you only need the width of your foam and add 3 centimetres and do the same to the measurement around. I've got 3 centimetres, I've got plenty all the way around, so I'm not going to be short. Okay? Now, so the first thing you do is you get a zip. Now, the zip is easier if you put it in the long piece, and I would say that this is probably about 48 centimetres long, so my zip is 45 centimetres long. So I'm just going to turn my zip over, and I'm going to put right side to right side. And do you know how wonderful this fabric is? It tears straight. I love it. So I'm just going to put a pin through here. Yes, you can pin through this laminate. It's not a heavy laminate. Some laminates are very, very stiff to work with. You don't really want to use those for this job because you will need to do a little bit of pinning. Okay, and see, I do pin sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put on my ordinary zip foot that you've all got, and it's foot number 4. So my ordinary zip foot, I'm going to put my needle position to the far left. Had to have a look which way I was sewing. And my zip foot is I'm going to start sewing at my metal end. I'm going to go all the way to the other end and stop sewing at the other metal end. So you must start there and you must stop there because we're going to sew this seam up. Okay? So I'm going to start sewing here, and I've just got, I'll go to 2.5 length. Needle position to the left. Okay? So needle stop down function on, if you've got one, is brilliant. So every time you stop sewing, the needle will be down in the work, and you don't need to have to worry about your fabric moving. So right sides together of my zip and my fabric. It's a beautiful, beautiful fabric. Lovely for the garden. I know one of the staff said to me, oh, if you've got a spare one made, I'd like one, because she does a lot of gardening. So it's a lovely gift, and it's not an expensive gift to make for Christmas, rather than going to buy something someone's not going to use. So instead of a handle on this size one, I'm going to make a loop so they can hang it in their garden shed. And I'm going to make that out of a strip of fabric, so I'll show you that in a minute, because otherwise I'll forget. So I'm just going to make a nice loop to hang it. Now before I get to the end of my zip here, I'm going to stop with the needle down. I'm going to lift my foot up, and I'm going to zip my zip past my stitching I've already done, so that I can just sew my zip to the end of it. Okay? And remember, I'm stopping at that metal piece. And my snips, oh there they are. Cut my thread. Now what I'm going to do is probably not the correct way to do things, but it's me you're dealing with here, so I do things my way. So what I thought was the easiest way to make this fit properly, I get my piece of foam and I place my zip halfway between my side like that, and I put a pin in there, and the pin's just temporary to hold it. This is just to show you how I went about doing things, because I think this makes sense to my brain. Now you keep this nice and flat you fold this around your piece of foam. You bring this up, make sure your edges are nice and even because it'll match your pattern as well. Right, so there we are there, got plenty of fabric. You fold your fabric down and then you're covering the zip. Okay, so I'll show you that again. You've got your zip here, fold your excess fabric down and bring it over to cover the zip, and if you're clever, squidge it along a bit, you'll match your pattern. Just eyeing it up, about there. Okay, so bring this over, bring it over nice and tight. Now, what you want to do is you want to put a pin through the zip and through the fabric to hold it. Okay? Not through the foam, Robin. Through the zip and through the fabric, that's better. And then I'll do the same down here so I can take that pin out. That was just to hold it temporarily. Bring this up. And the reason why I'm doing it like this is because I am going to show you how you sew the end part next. Because it's so much easier to do it before you top stitch. Roll that down, roll it over. See, you've nearly got those patterns matching. And just put a pin through your fabric. Now the reason why we want to do that is because now what I want to do is show you how to stitch this piece. So if you can see there, this seam from here to here needs to be stitched. So from the end of my zip upwards, and I want this to come over and cover my zip. Okay, so what I do is I just lay it over so it's all nice and flat. I've got it pinned, and I'm going to go in and stitch that piece. So what I do is I put my finger there and I put a pin, a pin through that bit of fabric, connecting with the other bit of fabric. I'll get it in a minute. There we go. See there? There's my pin through there, and I'm going to stitch under here to there. So now I can take out this pin and this pin, and that's all you need to do. Pull this out, just slide it out. Now I'm going to turn it through so I can show you. So this is the finish you want. Hang on, like that. Okay, so your zip's tucked in under there, you've covered it, and you're sewing this little piece here on the inside. Okay, is that nice and clear? So I'm going to turn this through. I'm actually asking the cameraman and he wasn't nodding. So I'm turning that through, and now I can show you on this side. This is where I'm stitching. So if you have a look here, I'm going to put a pin. This is where I'm starting, right at the end of my seam, and I'm sewing from there up to the end. Alright, so I'll sew that now with my zip foot on, and this time I'll put my needle position to the right. Okay, and you want to finish that off now, and then you're all sorted for when you do the next little piece. You don't have to worry about it, it's all done. Yep. Just make sure your zip's out of the road. Don't want to run over anything. So get as close as you can to it's going to be enough, because it's only a, you'll be top stitching it all anyway. So it's just to hold it so it makes it neat and tidy. Oops. Drop that pin. Now something jumped off before, didn't it? It was the end of my thread, to my little holder. They do get loose after quite a while of use, so you can buy other little ones. So it's quite a good idea sometimes to make sure it's still nice and tight. Right, so what I've done is I've stitched that. So it's just that little piece from the end of my zip up to the end of my fabric. Okay? Now I'm going to turn it through so I can show you. See, so it's sitting nice and flat, and it's really strong. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same to the other end, and then I simply just top stitch this all together. So I'm going to pin the rest of my zip on. It's a very, very easy method. So I'll just put a couple of pins in here. Fabric's an amazing thing. Once you've folded a piece of fabric, you just pull it and it will just fold in exactly the same way. It's very, very clever. Love dealing with it. Right, so I'm just going to do the same to this other end. Show you again. So this is your piece of fabric that you've stitched. You're going to be folding this piece over top. So you want to stitch these two pieces together so that's sitting nice and flat when you start. Okay, so I'm going to zip this down to get my zip out of the road. There we are. And I'm going to sew on the inside of this. Tuck that zip in. Hold your mouth right. There we go. And pin it, and then open it up and check that you're happy with where you've pinned it. Because you don't have to stitch it till you're happy with it. Get your little bit of that little bit of zip out of the road. Okay, so it's not going to pop out when you're sewing. So I'll show you in a second. Once again, I've pinned up through there. Then open it out and make sure you're happy with it, or drop it on the ground. See, perfect. Okay, so I'll just stitch that little piece. Oh, sorry, I'm having a head shaker going because I was too fast. All right, so there it is there. Got it? Good. I'm too fast apparently, ladies. Been told that a few times. So I will just stitch that little bit up. Where am I going to? I'm going to that point there. Rightio. There we go. So just sew there, make sure you pull that little bit of the zip out so you don't get it stuck. Cool. Okay, so I'll show you it again. There it is there. Okay, so now I'll just put that zip back. Perfect. Just check that you're happy with the way that it is sitting. Now, you've all got an amazing little gadget that you probably don't use enough. And it's called the Quilting Guide, and I have shown you it before. It is brilliant. So this one's a right-hand quilting guide. You can get a left-hand quilting guide. So if I wanted to sew that way, I would put my quilting guide in like this, but it would be upside down. It really doesn't matter, but you can buy a left-hand quilting guide. So really it goes this way, like that. And then you tighten this little screw, and this is the perfect time for using this quilting guide, because I'm going to sew this on the right-hand side, the right side of my fabric, and I want to sew nice and evenly down to sew my zip in. So it's one top stitch, not stitching and turning it over. Now you'll notice I've got a different foot on. This is Teflon coated. That helps it slip over my laminated fabric, okay? If you haven't got a Teflon foot, you can put maybe a bit of baking paper on there and stitch through it. Some laminates will just sew with the ordinary foot, okay? But I'm going to use the Teflon foot because I've got it here. And I'm going to line my foot up. The fold is going to go down here, and the top stitch is going to go beside my zip. So for the first one, I'll just undo the zip a bit so I can feel where the zip's going. So my first stitch needs to be beside my zip. So if you have a look in there, if I show you, you can see that I've pinned my zip so that it's just on the left hand side of my zip closure. Okay, so on the right hand side I can just straight stitch down there, it's going to be perfect. Okay, so this is what you do. You put your quilting guide at the right distance to run along the folded edge of your fabric. So I'll just show you here. So this quilting guide is going to go down my fold. Oh, I need to go out a little tiny bit more. About to there. Let's have a look at that. That looks perfect. Tighten up the screw once you've got it right. So if you're wondering what those screws are on the back of the foot, this is what they're for. And you can start right from the end. Put your stitch length out longer though, so you're doing like a top stitch. So put it out to 3 to 3.2, whatever you like. I'll put mine to 3.2. And then you're going to stitch down. You don't need to back stitch. Stop, take the pins out. Now when you're doing this, you've got a long tube. Oh, one moment, my zip's not flat. There we go. You've got a long tube. So what you want to do to make life easy is put your hand through here and make sure you're not going to stitch anything else down. Okay? So now you can just run your quilting guide just along your fold. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Really good if the pins are up the right way too, Robin. Now I'm just going to stop and zip my zip up, because I've gone past my little area. So I just zip that up first. There, that's out of the road now, and you can just buzz down. But I always put my hand through here to make sure I'm not going to sew any other bits of my fabric. And because it's lovely and soft, you can do a narrow tube like this and you don't have to worry. Okay, so just follow your guide, don't watch what your foot's doing. Okay. So my hand's just underneath to stop me from sewing on my fabric. Now one of the ladies suggested on the machines that sew in 16 different directions, you could try putting it so that your machine sews sideways, then you could have your tube just going down over your free arm. It's worth a try. I don't know how to work, but it's worth a try. Okay? So just top stitch down all the way. So that this foot's just making my life a little bit easier, okay? Make sure you're not sewing over anything. Take your pins out as you go. It's a really good fabric that you can actually pin it. Some of them, it would leave a terrible hole. Now, if you had a fabric that wasn't able to be pinned, I suggest that you glue your zip in place and stitch it from the inside and then turn it over to top stitch it. But with this method I can do it all in one go. Okay. It's easy, very, very easy. And then for the last bit, just take your pin out and then just keep it nice and folded. Tuck that all under, keep that flat. And then away you go. Keep checking that you haven't stitched anything though. Okay. It's too easy. A quick present to make too. I think it's a great idea. There we are. Now before I do another thing, I'm just going to straighten off my fabric. Cut that, or else I'll end up with all sorts of fabric everywhere. Pull this out. And then I'm going to just straighten this edge off before I do another thing. Okay, so I'll just straighten this edge. I thought that edge had been ripped straight, but it definitely hasn't been. That's nearly better, good. So I'll just straighten that little bit off because I don't want to get it all messy. Right, so you have got your zip sewn in here, right? Then you're going to turn it through. Like so. Nice and easy. And where your zip folds is going to be your halfway mark. So you can just stitch across this end. We're just going to stitch across that end, and then when we come back I will show you how to make your little base of your knee tidy, and you do exactly the same method to your cushion. Alright, so grab a cuppa and then come back and I'll show you the next little bit of our knee pad.